This is our first look video of the Niner Sur 9 steel hardtail. A lot of you have been asking about this bike and begging me to get one in on review. I reached out to Niner and they were gracious enough to send us one for this. So all the bikes I review on my channel are sent in by the bike companies, and I really appreciate them partnering so that you guys can get some eyeballs on these bikes that you otherwise wouldn't see. Some of these are pretty rare. All right, let's take a look. Wow, that's beautiful. Those colors pop. This is a used bike. It came off their demo fleet, so it's not gonna look brand new, but pretty close. Got an X01 derailleur, X1 cranks. This is a very nice build. If it's not in your price range, that's okay. It's still worth reviewing these bikes to see what's possible. I think some people wish every car review was a Kia and the cheapest possible model, but some of us don't want a Kia, and so it's really cool to check out the higher end stuff. I've seen titanium frames that are cheaper than this. Does that mean this is a bad buy? Well, if all you base your purchasing decision on is final cost, there are cheaper bikes. But if you watch this channel for a while, you know that I believe there's so much more important things than boiling it down to one number like head angle or price or frame material. You gotta check the whole package, and that's why we do these reviews, to see if the whole ride experience lives up to its price. That's what we need to look at, not just what's the cheapest hardtail I can get into. And a lot of people think that every hardtail should be cheaper than every full suspension, and I completely disagree with that sentiment. And that just assumes that everyone who rides a hardtail rides one because they can't afford a full suspension. I loaned one of my buddies my bike yesterday, and he rode it and he said, I was blown away at how much fun a hardtail is. Why did I spend $3,500 on my full suspension when this is more fun and it's cheaper? And so he's starting to get it. And a lot of people only have experience riding really low budget hardtails or really old fashioned hardtails that don't have modern geometry. Until you've ridden a high-end, nice hardtail, you don't know what you're missing and you're not gonna get it. And so whenever I see comments from people saying, I could buy a full suspension for that. Yes, you could. You don't get it though. There's something magical about a great hardtail. And today we're gonna take a first look and see if this has the elements that make a magical hardtail. All right, for the fork, we've gone with a Fox Stepcast 34. Now this is interesting. I need to check the travel on this, but when I measure it, there's 140 mil of stanchion showing. That doesn't seem right. I might need to just get the negative air chamber equalized, but this gives you an idea of what this bike is. This is the factory model with the Kashima where you're paying extra for the bling stuff. The Stepcast 34 is lighter than a regular 34. But it tells you that because it's a 34 and not a 32, they're okay with you getting a little bit rowdy on it, and it's not just a full-on XC race machine. At least that's what I assume anytime I see a Stepcast 34. This fork is for people who want performance over the absolute cheapest budget. And we're gonna see that throughout this whole build, from the frame to the components. Here's a little tip. I always tighten my bars crooked on the stand so that when I get it off the stand, it reminds me, oh yeah, you gotta set the headset and line everything up and tighten all that. A little trick I use. Ooh, I like the look of that saddle. One thing you'll notice on this bike, every single piece is top of the line and brand name. We've got a Race Face Next R carbon bar. We've got a Race Face stem. We've got the Fox Factory Stepcast with the Kashima carbon cranks. I mean, this is a full-on decked out build, and it's really nice seeing companies that understand that with a hardtail, because a lot of companies take that approach of, oh, the hardtails are the budget ones, and then we put all the nice parts on the full suspensions. Well, thank you, Niner, for realizing that some of us love well-spec'd hardtails. On any hardtail frame, you need to be careful when you're running your cable out of this tube not to shred it, because the metal edges can cause it to shred. Oh no. I think I've hit this water bottle bolt. It won't go any lower. Let's see if removing the bolt gives me more seat posts. Dang it. I'm short. I'm 5'6", and I size my bikes based off of reach. And most bikes these days I can get a dropper low enough to get the reach that I want, which usually means sizing up from what they recommend. So this is a size medium. Oh, and if this doesn't drop all the way, that's gonna be a problem for me. What a lot of people don't realize is it's not just the bolt in here, but the insert that the bolt threads into, a lot of times those protrude quite a bit into the frame as well. So sadly, even with that bolt removed, it's bottoming out there. Darn it, that is too bad. I love having extra water bottle bosses in here unless this happens where you lose seat height. Dang, that means I'm not going to be able to run the seat up all the way. Darn it. We got a whole bunch of bosses in here for custom frame bags, so you can tell that this is the bike they would probably recommend for bike packers. And a steel hardtail for bike packing is a fantastic choice. I'm glad to see a lot of hardtail makers thinking about bike packers now. And to be honest, you really don't need a special bike for bike packing. What I like is plus tire compatibility and room for bags. If there's a whole bunch of gussets and weird frame shapes, you're not going to be able to fit much gear on your bike. But other than that, there's not a ton you need for bike packing. It just needs to be able to carry stuff. But this has little things like cargo racks here, so you could put a rack on the back of this and carry more gear on that. I really love seeing stuff like that. So there are some little things like all these little bosses to bolt stuff on that I think is cool. But don't be mistaken, that's not required for bike packing. They're all nice to haves, and if a frame designer is gonna include them, awesome. But if your bike doesn't have these, it doesn't mean you should sell it and go get one that has them because bike packing is gonna be that much better. It's not. Although having rack mounts is a game changer if you use a rack. This has a couple scratches in it from the previous rider. Boy, that's beautiful with the gloss gray, the orange pops, and then the matte silver. Niner is from Colorado, but this bike is made in Taiwan like most bikes these days. This also has a press fit bottom bracket. This is the only hardtail I've reviewed on the channel so far that has a press fit bottom bracket. I'm not a fan of press fit. It's not a deal breaker, but I'm not a huge fan. But one cool thing that they do have is an eccentric bottom bracket that fits this, so you can run it single speed. An eccentric bottom bracket allows the spindle of the crank to move around so you can get tighter chain tension. And I think a bike like this, a steel hardtail that's not super aggressive, can make for a really great single speed, as I've shown with the Nimble 9 and Chameleon and things like that. So I'm glad that's an option. Personally, I'd rather see a threaded bottom bracket with sliding dropouts, but that's just me. Check out these sweet bullet mounts for the brake. Really impressed with that. So it's post mount, which is really nice to see. I've been seeing a lot of IS mount, but that's cool to run post mount with no adapter. Check out this chainstay yoke. This is all steel. It looks like aluminum because it's painted matte, sparkly silver, but that is actually steel. Really, really interesting chainstay yoke there. Interesting, they've got all the cable routing on the side slash down. It's not quite on the bottom of the down tube, but it's not quite on the side. Interesting, my cables kind of got... It's kind of funky how that all does that. I don't know if it's supposed to go behind the head tube like that, but that looks normal. Kind of interesting. It looks so cool. I love the look of the chainstay yoke. It just looks so beefy. I love the bridgeless seat stays. I love the color. I love the combination of the gloss with the matte and the orange that just pops. Looks really good with the Fox. My bike is pretty close to what's gonna come on a 5-star build, but there's one or two changes. For instance, this has guide RSC brakes instead of G2 brakes. They're almost the same exact thing, but I thought I'd mention it. And it's supposed to come with a 120 mil step cast 34, but when I measure the stanchion, that's measuring 135. I think this is a 140 mil step cast 34, which is going to slacken this out a full degree, so that'll be closer to 67 degree head angle. This has the best of the best parts. Race face Nexstar carbon bar, 40 mil race face turbine stem, We've got the SDG dropper, Guide RSC brakes, SRAM X01, 12-speed Eagle, SRAM X1, carbon cranks. These are 175 mil cranks. Unfortunately, I'm more of a 170 mil guy, but we'll give it a try, see how it is. We got the Stans Arch CB7 carbon wheel set with the Neo Ultimate hub with tons of engagement. Man, this is just a really well-spec'd bike, and it just goes to show that Niner takes their hardtails seriously. They don't consider them the budget entry-level bike that gets you started in mountain biking. They're riders, and they understand that a lot of people choose hardtails by choice, and we want a nice hardtail, and this is a nicely spec'd hardtail. So this is a steel chromoly frame. We've got bosses up here, 2 inside here. Inside the frame, we've got 2 underneath. You can't see it because the cables are blocking it. There's actually 3 underneath. Really great for bike packing. Really great for my long days on the saddle where I want to put my half-gallon jug down there. We've got rack mounts in the back. Really cool features on paper. This uses Reynolds 853 main tubes. This will also fit 27.5 by 3.0 tires. And I think that's significant. Most 29er frames also fit 27.5, but they're calling 27.5 by 2.6 plus or maybe 2.8. This will allow up to a full 3.0, and that makes an enormous difference between 2.8 and 3.0 when you're bike packing. I know it's a 1/4 of an inch. It really does make a difference though. So I'm glad they went and committed to fitting the full big wheels in there. One of my goals on the channel is to help educate people to see through marketing claims. If we just read all the stuff on websites about bikes and took it at face value, we would have unrealistic expectations for some of these bikes. Unfortunately, this bike has some really strong marketing speech that I want to call out if you're reading it. The Sur 9 is perfect for just about any type of riding, no matter how long or short. It's a butt-kicking, grin-inducing lunch ride launch pad when you only have 30 minutes to burn in the back lot. It also made for multi-day missions in the backcountry, and it's made to make you happy the minute you throw a leg over it. Okay, cool. So it's meant for a little bit of everything, and a lot of times hardtails and single-speed hardtails are the perfect little lunch loop. I totally get that. It has what they're calling trail country geometry, as if XC and down country and trail wasn't confusing enough. They say this trail country geometry translates to modern trail manners when you need them most, with no sacrifice of efficiency or agility. Now everybody claims that our bike is the most efficient uphill and then it leaves nothing behind on the downhill. Every bike has pros and cons, so I'm a little bit cautious when I read that it does everything great. But I get it, it's marketing speech, it's meant to tell you what they intended to do with the bike, and it's meant to motivate you to purchase it and have information to compare between brands. The roomy cockpit has a comfortable reach for short stem lengths, which is true, we got a 40 mil stem, giving you quick handling and plenty of maneuverability to blast through rock gardens and cut hard corners. The steep 74-degree seat angle gets you centered over the BB. So 74 degrees used to be steep, but it's not what I would call steep these days. Talks about the short 430 chainstays. 430 is shortish, but it's kind of the standard number for hardtails right now. So it's on the shorter side, but I feel like a lot of this copy is a few years old, as this model is. And so just because they're calling it slack or short or long, don't take that at face value. Look at the numbers and make sure you understand them. In the next sentence, and of course, the slack 68-degree head tube angle and long wheelbase contributes stability and self-confidence. Be careful of marketing speak. It says it's slack, and I've met a lot of people who said, I bought it because it said it was slack on the website. Learn how to read these numbers, learn what they mean, and come to your own conclusions about what means slack and what doesn't. 5 years ago, 68 degrees was sort of slack. 68 degrees is nowhere near slack in this day and age. So it's hard. They kind of market it as XC and trail and aggressive. And to me, I haven't found a bike that's amazing at all of those things or that fits neatly in all 3 of those categories. Hardtails do it quite well, but judging by the numbers, I would not say this is aggressive on paper. It's got a nice long reach, and that part's aggressive. but the head angle is not what I would consider aggressive these days. And that's not a dig on this bike or on Niner. Not everybody needs a slack head tube angle, but calling 68 slack, yeah, just, I don't know. I think it's misleading. Two bummers. One, this dropper will not go all the way down, and I hope there's enough showing there. And two, I don't like the press fit bottom bracket, but that's not a deal breaker. If you need custom bike advice and you need help picking your next bike, that's a service I offer on Patreon. So if you are stuck or your shop is pushing one brand really hard and another shop pushes another brand and you're confused or you don't know how to read geocharts or you're building up a bike and you don't know what components to put on it, become a patron and one-on-one I can consult with you, share my opinions. I'm completely neutral in your bike decision making, and I've ridden a lot of bikes and I'm able to help you compare what different bikes ride like and what would be good for your neck of the woods, etc. So if you're interested in that, head over to Patreon. Time to weigh this thing. Let me take my guess. I'm gonna guess 29.2. Final weight with pedals came in at 28.1. Not bad for a steel hardtail with some really, really nice parts. So all in all, I really applaud Niner for a few things. I love that they spec'd it well and they realize not all hardtails are entry-level bikes. Some of them are your dream bike. And finally, I applaud them for having external cable routing all the way through for fitting 27.5 by 3.0 tires. That makes a huge, huge difference. If there's a bike out there that I haven't reviewed that you want to see, reach out to that company. Shoot them an email and say, hey, you need to get in touch with Hardtail Party. He does great reviews. Have them get in touch with me. I'll work with them. We'll get one of their bikes in. Hopefully they understand the value of YouTube and reviews. Some companies don't, but a lot of forward-thinking companies like Niner do. So huge shout out to Niner for sending this in so that you guys could get an in-depth look at what the Niner Sur 9 is all about. Thanks for watching. There's a party in the mountains and you're invited.